Welcome everyone to this 30 minutes webinar about EqHub, where we will talk about the basic things to know about EqHub. The team who will organize the meeting on the webinar is Julia, who will tell us a little bit about the webinar and how it's organized, where you can ask questions and so on. And then Andrea will give us some update on how EqHub is working. And then I will give a short introduction about Offshore Norge and Offshore Norge's role related to EqHub. The topic of today and the agenda is as follows. So we will give an introduction to EqHub. We will take you through and show you how it works and give you some insight. We will give you some tips. We will tell a little bit about integrations, APIs, and so on. And there is a possibility for a Q&A at the end of the webinar.
Hello,
Julia, a little bit, yeah.
Yes, I will also join my colleagues and tell how excited we are to have you here today. So as Ingve mentioned, I will try to share with you some practical information about today's webinar. So to start with, the most important, perhaps, the recording will be available for you immediately after the webinar. You will receive the link together with the email from the system, but also it will be uploaded to the YouTube, and we will also share this link with you via the follow-up email, most probably tomorrow. Now let's talk shortly about our Q&A session. So as Ingve mentioned, at the end of the webinar, we will have a live Q&A, but please do not wait till the end of the webinar, till the Q&A session, and ask your questions as soon as you have some. So now practical stuff, how to actually ask a question here in the system. Here on the slide, you may see the short guide that we have prepared for you. I will go quickly through it. So first of all, on the right bottom of your screen, you can see the questions icon. You need to click on it, and then the questions panel will appear. After that, you need to click one more button, Ask a Question, and then the pop-up will appear where you actually can type in your question and send your question to us. The question will be displayed then on the questions panel, and that's basically it. That's how you ask the question. One more important thing is that you can actually vote for the questions from other users. So maybe there are some you will be also interested in. And as mentioned at the end of the webinar, we will try to answer your question. We will start from the most popular, the most voted ones. And in case we run out of time, as we have so many people joining today, we will address surely the questions together with the follow-up email. We will send it to you. So we are looking forward to your question. And now I'm passing the word back to my colleague Ingve.
I will just tell quickly about Offshore Norge and Offshore Norge's role towards EqHub. First of all, Offshore Norge is a membership organization for the offshore industry in Norway. And Offshore Norge covers several functions in the industry. We cover the function as the employers association. We are an interest organization towards government and society. And then we are organizing collaboration projects and services on behalf of the industry. And related to services in Offshore Norge, here are some examples of the services that Offshore Norge is organizing on behalf of the industry. So we have services like L2S that some people might know, Magnet JQS, which some people also might know, virtual inventory, and also in this we have EqHub. And related to EqHub, what's worth mentioning is that EqHub is now required to be used by all operators in Norway on the Norwegian continental shelf. So that means that if you're delivering to any of these operators or any of these operators' operations or projects, you will have to use EqHub when you deliver your data and documentation on products. So that's required. Also, it's supported by some of the major operators who don't have operations yet, but they will start to use EqHub when they have operations ready for their assets, and new assets. Also, EqHub is supported by the major contractors on the Norwegian continental shelf. And then I will give the word to André, who will take us through EqHub.
Yeah, thank you, Yngve. So I'll take you now through some insights about the solution. Give you a quick demo. First and foremost, most important things for those of you who haven't gotten started yet, it's important to understand that the authentication process and level for EqHub and related services is currently through Collaborate Hello. There is a Federation ADFS available here to achieve single sign-on. But if you haven't gotten that already, it's suggested that you wait, because Collaborate Hello will be phased out starting this year. There's also a video or several videos available. One of the videos that we have shows how to get started with this sign-up process called Collaborate Hello, and how you can get access. Now, before the actual demo, I want to also highlight that there are mainly two different roles in the system, or types of access. So the one major one is the operator contractor role, meaning that those companies with that access can get access to everything that isn't restricted. We'll get into this restriction stuff later. They can still request access to restricted data, and they have an access-based dashboard. Suppliers, or the vast majority of users and companies, are under this category. They have access as a default to their own data. They can determine rules for own data, i.e. they can decide whether or not the company has access to their documents or not. They can also, in line with what the operators and contractors can do, they can also request additional access if that is needed. And they also have their own access-based and to-do widgets in the system. So starting with a quick demo of the operator experience, I will attempt here to open, you can see this. So now I'm in the test environment, logged in as an operator. What I can see now, typically, if I have the appropriate access, is 4 sections. I have a home page, I have a requirements page, I have a search menu item, and I have an administration panel here. The administration is for admins or super users within each organization. Not all of the organizations have that, but you just need to know that, be you an operator or a supplier, you can handle your own users if that is something you want. And that's done through this administration panel. So right now on the starting page, what typically all the users end up seeing if they belong to this company is, their own data here, what type of access they have, a logo and so on, a summary from the system, telling the user how many registered products there are, how many of those are approved, total number of documents, total number of available documents, right? Back to this, documents could be restricted, so there's a delta here. Total number of manufacturers with products or documents associated with them. There's also these so-called dashboards that are here, giving the user insight on what's happening, in the system. For example, here, new verified and approved products, information about new suppliers being added to the system, what kind of brands they represent. There's also information here about top classes. You can see there's a lot of valves in the system. There's also a section here that's common for everyone, onboarding information, which will take you to the FAQ and YouTube pages and so on for videos and guides. And on the bottom also, there's a footer with information about support contact details, social media channels, and just in general about Offshore Norge. I'll get back to this in the tool tip section also, but you have really access to the search from the main menu also. There's basically two different type of searches. You can search in documents, or you can search for products, or so-called EqHub IDs. So I can execute a search right now without going through this tab, and it will show me here all the results that I have access to. So about 149,000 products. So if I want to narrow down, for example, to only really be, I'm only interested in approved, and I'm only interested in product revisions that are actually published by the data provider, not too interested in draft versions. I could be also that I'm interested in a specific manufacturer, for example. And now I end up with a list here of 500 items from Bartek. If I want to do some actual analysis on this data, I need to export it, right? Either from the interface there or through an API. But since of last night, you now have the option to also to export this. You can click this export button. It will download the report. You can open the report. Let me just see how that works. Have a double click. And here you have the data. It's quite a number of rows here, so it takes some time. Bear with me. Yeah, here it is. First thing you'll see, if you want to send this around in-house in your organization, you will have some timestamped information here. You will also know who has generated the report, what the report consists of, the so-called filters, which is Bartek, and the status is approved and published. And here you can play around with the data and investigate and do lookups and so on with against other sources. So please enjoy this. This is the main, really the main difference. That, as I said initially here, that operators have access to a lot more information. But I don't have access to everything, right? Because if I want to look at what kind of documents are available to me, I can see that there are 64,000. I can also see that of those 64,000, a whopping 13,000, almost 14,000 are restricted. And here we see that me as a user, I can't really access this document. So because it's restricted. We are working on improvements here to make it possible for you to also see and request access directly through the interface, but that's gonna come later. Also quickly, we will talk about this later also, but I can explore requirements tied to any given product that is defined. For example, we typically go for valves when we show this. Here I can see when someone registers a valve, or I'm assessing information or completeness tied to a valve, you need to understand that this is the data that the data providers are providing against. So the documents requested for that particular class, described here, indicated with mandatory, conditional documents labeled conditional, in certain cases you need to provide that. Properties also asked for is described here, with also, with access to other references. This is based on, industry standards that are agreed upon, including, set 018. We'll get back to more about this a bit later. So that's the operator view. You have access to everything that is not restricted for you. And for the next part, I want to show how a typical data provider will experience this system. They will log in. They will see here that same thing, who they are now logged in as, what kind of roles they have, what kind of brands or manufacturer brands they have access to, or can write on behalf of rather. They have a summary of their own products. It could also be other products that they have access to. So this will just summarize that. It will also give an indication of what is in draft, what needs to be redone, what is pending. And definitely the pending list here is under to do, where you can now see that this user has 2 items that are in draft mode. So the user or his colleagues or her colleagues need to finalize those or cancel them. So it's just something you started that needs to be finished in some way or another. And searching as the data provider, you will have access to a lot less. The default is that you have access to your own only, right? So instead of 150,000 records that we saw previously, they have access to, this particular case in test has access to 125 with given these parameters in the search. The requirements view exactly the same. Requirements is, manufacturers is also a section where you can see what kind of brands you have access to and who has created that access for you and so on. So it's quite helpful. You can also request new relations or new manufacturers. So that's the quick demo. I will go back to the presentation here. Sorry. Moving on to tips. We have selected a few tips that we want to talk about now. The first one is, how to get access to EqHub, how to search, what's the main differences, how to extract data, what kind of access principles are there here for the users and organizations, a bit more about requirements, and at the end here, how you can get started really with the solution, whether or not you have gotten access or not. There's a lot of material available. The first one is getting access, right? So of those of you in this meeting now, we assume that about half, maybe a bit more, have access already. But there's a big portion of you who doesn't have access yet and would like to have access. And that's great. It's very simple. You go and register your company in this on this page where you say who you are and what you want that access to, and then that will be processed. Once you have gotten access to this particular service, you can log on and log into the solution via our main landing page, eqhub.no, or the collaborate.no page. So eqhub.no is just actually a redirect from Collaborate, or the other way around actually. So that's how you get started and get access. Search, try to cover this in the previous section here. There are mainly 2 different searches in the user interface. You can search for products and you can search for documents. You can filter both search. You have different filters available depending on whether or not you're searching for products or documents. There's also occurrences where you will have predefined filters for you. This is mainly achieved by operators. So instead of having 150,000 records, it auto filters them, for approved and published. But the users can deselect that and add their own filters. And you have a lot of freedom here. And if there's aspects that are missing, and you feel like something could be useful, you just send a request to support, and that will be prioritized or at least assessed first and foremost for potential implementation at a later stage. Exports, as I said yesterday, it's been a long time coming now. We made available this export feature where you can export search results from the user interface. You already had access to get the same data through an API, but there's the common user, and most of the users are common users, and there's a lot of them, will navigate and use the user interface and this export function right here. But it's the goal is to make the data available and be transparent with what the data actually is. Access levels, we touched this a bit earlier also. You have, as an operator contractor, access to everything that is not restricted. If something is restricted and you need access, you can request that. as a package supplier, you will also have access to read access to everything that is non-restricted. As a data provider, the default is that you have access to your own stuff. Again, access to anything that you need access to, you can clearly find in the system, you can request. And this is handled currently through support. I also want to add here that there are certain data providers that will notice that, well, I only have access to 1 of 5 of my brands. Don't worry, that's by design. Request access to the brands you want access to through support, and they will ensure that you get that. And here I think also Yngve wants to add after I'm done, but the requirements that you see or the user see and adhere to in EqHub is represented through our side solution here called EqHub Norm. And this shows any requirement, document or property-based category requirement for all equipment that is defined. There will be someone who says that there's a missing item here, or there's something wrong, or something is inconsistent. This is just the way it is, and you can report those findings, and it will be governed and handled outside of EqHub. And it's based on the Set018 standard first and foremost. Yngve, do you want to add something here?
I think you describe it quite okay. So what's important to say is that the requirements that you can see here, that's what EqHub is based on, and that's what the industry currently is agreeing on. And then the world isn't perfect. So as you mentioned, if there is comments or feedback, we can do that through the system, or you can send it to support, and we will handle feedback from everyone, and we will raise that through the governance process with the standardization organizations.
That's excellent. Thank you, Yngve.
Yeah.
At the onboarding center also, I showed you all have access to that through the interface, but there's a lot of information available on our webpage, also with dedicated YouTube channels where you can find a lot of videos. So please, get started with that if you feel it's necessary. Now, briefly on integrations before we move on to the Q&A. So, EqHub, we've always had an API, but as of this year, in June, we are now able to provide this really readily to anyone with a demonstrated use case for it. So we want more and more organizations and companies to interact and use the data to figure out better to utilize the data in any way that makes sense for that organization. So please be aware, if you need this, send a request and you will most likely get it, without delay. And we're starting now with a basic setup, but in the future we will accommodate additional methods, again based on our own use cases across our own services, but also for you guys when you have a demonstrated need and something you're trying to achieve that is currently limited by the offering that we have, raise that and we will handle that request. I'd say again, the aim for the API is to be accessible to all, And we need you guys to consume and perform meaningful interactions with the data back and forth. Currently now it's mostly available, the main method available is for you to extract the data, but we have some cases where users are looking into providing data also to EqHub through their own systems, which is very exciting. And we want this to be helping, a help for you and your business processes. An example of an overview here of what really this is about. So we have a lot of services we covered recently in the previous slides. Some of those, virtual inventory, critical loop, and EqHub are in this so-called material management portfolio. And these services are interacting with each other, exchanging data. Currently, there's also just a selection here. There's quite a few more, but a selection of companies that are extracting data from EqHub and using it. And Able is the one case where we're trying to achieve a way where they can also provide data to EqHub, but this is not done yet. So it's very exciting times, and encourage you guys to explore and request this and start playing with it. Now, Julia, you want to give an intro to the Q&A?
Yes, so we received quite a lot of questions. We will try to cover most of them. As promised, others will be addressed via the follow-up email. So I will now read them out loudly, and I will ask you, Andrea and Ingve, to respond to the ones you feel you can do it best. And I will start with the questions that received the most votes. So the first one is who to contact when we find approved EqHub ID and we see errors or documents to be updated.
The first line of contact here is always going to be support@eqhub.no. And they will handle these tickets or requests and findings, and they will expedite them down the line, typically to Yngve or me or Knut Dagsvik, anyone working with a particular topic. So the first and foremost, please send it to support@eqhub.no.
Okay, thank you. Then the next one. Why are custom-made equipment, for example, control valves, with project-specific docs with tag numbers entered into the system when it can never be reused? This is double work as it already has received code 1 by the client.
Yes.
I can answer that. So it's up to the supplier if they want to deliver into EqHub, and in some cases it has been relevant historically for some suppliers to deliver the valves as project-specific deliveries, not unique into EqHub, and that's been requested by some of the operators. Going forward, we will work on this, and we will try to explain to the industry how this is going to work into the future, so we can secure reuse of the information as much as possible. But the reason is that we have some legacy and historical data, which for different reasons, when the project was delivered, some deliveries has looked like that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the next question: how to engage a vendor abroad to use EqHub actively for all their equipment?
So it was. Can you repeat it, Julia?
How to engage vendor abroad to use
Abroad?
EqHub actively for all their equipment?
Yeah, so this is different ways of doing this. But the first part is that the operators will have to communicate their requirements. And then it's, of course, also the contractor who will then also communicate the requirements in the specific projects that they are delivering to. And through the requirements, then there will be suppliers independent of where they are. They will need to then follow the requirements on using EqHub.
Okay, the next one. Who is verifying and approving in EqHub?
We have certified verifiers who will verify the content in EqHub. So currently we are using two companies, ShareCat and Able, not Able, sorry, Morel Apply, and they have certified verifiers who are doing this job now. And then we are also having dialogue with Able and some of the other contractors to certify more people who can do this.
Can I add something there also? So actually, last week already, Able was enrolled in this verification program with, I think, he's not here, the coordinator, but I think 8 verifiers. And the goal, I guess, is that down the line, more and more companies will take ownership of this themselves, and there will be a lot more verifiers around there handling own deliveries according to the actual requirements, of course, that are set in place by EqHub.
Yeah, but it's. I will also say that it's Offshore Norge who will then approve the people who get access to do that verification job, because we need to control it.
Yes.
Yeah, good point on that.
Okay, thank you. One more question. Who is cleaning up all duplicated products?
We will do that from Offshore Norge side. So we have started a program now related to data quality in EqHub, and we will continue and carry out with that task throughout next year until we have control of the statuses. As I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of legacy data, and the history of EqHub is 13, 14 years old. So initially there was different requirements and so on, which is not valid anymore. So that's why the quality will be a little bit different from item to item in some cases. But we are working, and we will execute a lot of work during next year to fix that. And we are also these days working on removing stuff which is clearly not in the quality that we want.
Can I also add here, it's important to also, I think, add that this is, yes, led by Offshore Norge, but of course we are involving the stakeholders that have used and gotten this stuff into the system. So it's,
yeah.
Thank you. So next question, who is sorry, the questions are jumping as the people are voting. Tech number versus EqHub ID. What is the difference?
There's no, I guess the difference is the syntax in front. So because the tech number is trademarked by the previous supplier of EqHub technology, that's why we needed to remove the tech syntax. But the number is the same. So you remove tech and then you have the number will be the same as previous.
And you can also now, as opposed to before, you have this more granularity in the data here. So if something is a tech that is represented in whether or not the part number plus manufacturer combination is unique or not. So it's the logic is still the same, but as Yngve said, the numbers are always, as before, unique, and they will never be reused.
Thank you. Then I think the last question for today, but I will need your help, Andrea or Yngve. It's in Norwegian. If you could open the question.
Maybe you can read the question.
It's from
I can't see it.
Yeah, it has 6 votes. If you could please read it out.
I can do it also, I guess. Let's see here. I'll stop sharing for a bit. Sorry. Okay. Questions.
Yes, vilken tiltak har EqHub for att undgå duplikater? So I guess it's to avoid duplicates. That's the question. So I guess in the technology, if you are registering a product and the part number and it's defined as unique, and you try to register the same part number against the same manufacturer once more, you will get a warning. So it will check it. So it's based on the uniqueness and the part number and manufacturer. Then it will check it, and then it will tell you that okay, this one exists from previously.
And also, so we have the system is helping the verifiers and the users even putting in the data to avoid the duplicates. And at the end of the day, there's still ways to create duplicates if you really want to, but it shouldn't be necessary, right? So the verifiers have an important role in making sure that what is put in by the data provider is accurate. So when it comes to the part number, for example, and the combo with the manufacturer is unique, this is done by the verifiers. There's a human aspect to this also. They also, of course, they are people, they can make mistakes. And this is also what we talked about earlier, how to improve the quality. It's not one solution to fix everything. It's quite complex, but this is something we are working on together with the verification guys and the data providers and data owners are going forward, as we've done for years already, but now with a bit more focus.
Okay.
Thank you. We need to wrap up the question section. The rest of them we will gather and we will answer them and send the response via email, as mentioned before.
Yes. So I guess then it's up to me to thank everyone for joining in. I will just mention one thing, which is always also a question, and that is, the costs related to EqHub. So what's important to remember is that there is no cost for suppliers and contractors for EqHub. EqHub is funded through the membership in Offshore Norge, and that means that it's the operators who pay for it, and then it's free of use for anyone who wants to use it. So I guess that's worth mentioning, since there's a lot of questions about that. So then again, thank you everyone for joining in. We will share this on our YouTube channel. I will also emphasize people to join our LinkedIn channel, where we put in news about EqHub every week. So thank you all for joining. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.